Lesson 3, Unit 3, Stakeholder Management. As we learned in Lesson 1, stakeholders are the individual, groups, or organizations who may be affected by, or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. As such, they have a level of interest and influence in the project. Stakeholder management refers to the strategies the project has identified to build and sustain the relationship with key stakeholders. The stakeholders are essential to results-based project management. Their level of involvement and support to the project is critical for its success. The goal of stakeholder management is to create positive relationships throughout the appropriate management of their expectations and agreed objectives. This is an important responsibility of the project manager during the implementation. It requires a careful analysis of the stakeholders' levels of interest and influence. This analysis is different from the analysis made during the design of the project, where the focus was to understand all the actors that will be involved in the project. During implementation, the focus now is on building and sustaining their support to the project. The stakeholder management process starts with the correct identification and understanding of all project stakeholders. This list might be different from the stakeholders identified during the planning phase. New stakeholders may need to be included once the project has completed the plans and areas of intervention. There is also the need to identify opportunities for improved relationships and participation with key stakeholders. The second step is to prioritize the stakeholders based on their levels of interest and influence on the project. This will result in 4 core groups of stakeholders. And finally, with information on priorities, define the type and level of engagement with each group of stakeholders. This step is usually done with participation of team members and other people that can provide insight on the stakeholders based on their experience with them in the past. The stakeholders are all the people who are affected by the project, who have influence or power over it, or have an interest in its success or conclusion. Identification of stakeholders is facilitated by the use of a simple table that lists all the stakeholders. The table includes columns to classify each stakeholder based on their level of interest and influence, the type of interest and influence, and finally, the category that each stakeholder will belong to. Once the team has completed the identification of all stakeholders, they have to analyze each stakeholder based on their levels and types of influence and interest. Influence is defined as the power a stakeholder has over the project. The type of influence can be on access to resources, information, political, or social. For example, the donor has influence and power over the financial resources of the project. A local government has power based on its political position and can authorize the work of the project. Interest is defined as the level of importance the project has on the stakeholder. For example, the project receives a high level of interest from beneficiaries and other groups from the results it will deliver. The last column is to help categorize each stakeholder based on their levels of influence and interest. The use of a 4x4 matrix helps classify each stakeholder based on their level of interest and influence. Each level has a different level of engagement. The goal is to categorize them by their levels of interest and influence in the project and customize their engagement with the project. Category A is for those stakeholders with high interest and high influence, for example, the project donor. Category B is for those stakeholders with low interest but a high influence, for example, the local government. Category C is for those stakeholders with high interest but low influence, for example, project beneficiaries. And Category D is for those stakeholders with low interest and low influence in the project. Each category has a different strategy to manage the relationships with the stakeholders. Category A are the stakeholders that need to be managed closely. Category B is for stakeholders that need to increase their level of interest by engaging and finding opportunities for goal alignment. Category C is for stakeholders that should be sufficiently informed about the progress of the project. And finally, Category D, these are low priority stakeholders They require limited monitoring information. Stakeholders can move across the categories by changing their levels of interest and influence. Category A stakeholders have high expectations of the project. They are supported and have influence in the project. The project manager needs to engage them frequently, involve them in decision making, and consult them regularly. The project manager should provide updates on the progress of the project, ask for authorization for changes, consult on decisions, and maintain a close relationship to ensure an effective support to the project. Category B is a special type of stakeholders. They have influence but low interest in the project. Some of these stakeholders might have access to resources the project might need, so it's important to develop an engagement strategy to increase their interest in the project. Some may have little knowledge about the project objectives or their interests may not be aligned with the overall goals of the project. The project manager should seek to satisfy their needs or concerns about the project and seek opportunities to increase the level of support to the project. In other cases, these stakeholders may be a source of risk to the project if their interests become negative. Category C stakeholders have a lower priority. They have high interest, so they can be good supporters of the project. The project manager can send them communications on a regular basis and find opportunities to maintain and sustain their interest by involving them in low risk areas and consulting on decisions that will impact them. It's important to recognize that this is a group that can increase their level of power and influence in the project. For example, the groups of families that will benefit from the project can organize and form a community-based organization that now speaks on behalf of all families in the project target area. The project manager should not dismiss this group, but show consideration to their needs and interests in the project. The final group in the matrix is category D stakeholders. Low interest and low influence make this group the lowest priority in the project manager's efforts to manage the relationships with the stakeholders. Some general communications may be useful to increase their interest. The project managers should not spend too much time and effort on this group of stakeholders, but they should be monitored regularly to see if there are changes in their levels of influence and interest during the life of the project. The use of these categories can also help the project manager identify how each group can participate in the project. Some groups will participate during the life of the project, while other groups might be interested in certain phases or activities in the project. This is a very relevant African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, travel alone. If you want to go far, travel together. Development projects cannot go as far as they would like to without the support from stakeholders. An important characteristic of result-based project management is that all actors contribute to the achievement of results. It's a participatory approach in all phases of the project. Sustainable results can only be achieved when all key players are involved and participate actively. Stakeholder participation, sometimes defined as the process through which the project shares information with them, listens to their views, involves them in the process of planning and decision making, contributes to their capacity building, and ultimately empowers them to initiate, manage, and control their own self-development. In results-based project management, stakeholder participation is an approach that occurs throughout the project lifecycle. It is a process to find mutually defined and agreed upon results through a consensus building process that involves all key stakeholders. Participation increases and improves decision making, and that increases ownership of the results. Stakeholder participation comes with its own challenges. Lack of knowledge on how to incorporate participation in the project can be a factor that can limit its use. Most project managers recognize that they need to add more time in their project activities to accommodate the participation of key stakeholders. There is also the difficulty of selecting the right stakeholders when the project needs them, which is not always feasible. Additionally, stakeholders may have different interests and different goals. A participatory approach usually requires a good deal of time, resources, and planning for it to be effective. There are significant benefits from stakeholder participation. Many studies carried out by the World Bank and other donors support this claim. They have found better results on projects that seek the involvement of beneficiaries on all stages of the project cycle, and lower results when there is little attention paid to their participation, particularly in project design and planning. Incorporating a participative approach in the project requires time, cost, and effort, but the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Fostering stakeholder participation throughout the project lifecycle has immediate benefits. These are the three principal reasons why fostering stakeholder participation is crucial to results-based project management. There is better information, there is increased level of commitment, and there is more accountability for results. Stakeholder participation expands information base needed for the project design and planning. Identifying, defining, and measuring results and risks depends on a comprehensive process to collect information. Bringing together project stakeholders will help ensure that information and knowledge held by them is identified and used in the project. This is especially important in terms of obtaining information about the context, the cultural and social economic environment, and even the local political situation that can help in the design of the project. A participatory approach will help establish clear roles and responsibilities. This will lead to commitment to achieving the stated results. Close collaboration and participation of all parties, including primary beneficiaries, is essential to create a sense of ownership of the project. Beneficiaries will be more committed to achieving results for which they are clearly responsible and for which they have helped define. This is a critical factor identified in the results change. Results are changes that occur when the beneficiaries feel their voices and concerns have been taken into account and they feel truly committed to achieve them. Clearly defined roles and responsibilities also leads to greater efficiency and eliminates problems caused by duplication of efforts among the various actors in the project. The participation of all the stakeholders helps create an environment where individuals accept that their accountability includes delivering on results. Having all partners, including beneficiaries, participate throughout the project lifecycle from design to implementation eases the transition from being accountable for activities to being accountable for results. With a participatory approach, all stakeholders provide input and consensus on results targets. In this sense, because stakeholders participated in defining results targets, they are confident that the targets can be met and are therefore willing to accept the responsibility of achieving them. Stakeholders will also accept accountability for results when they feel empowered. Stakeholder management is about understanding the needs and concerns of all key stakeholders, building strategies to engage them and increase their participation in the project. The project manager uses a participative approach as a strategy to increase the effectiveness of the project results. Engaging and managing the relationships with key stakeholders requires time, effort, and cost. It's an investment that has a significant return when the project delivers results that meet the needs of beneficiaries, when it consults decisions with those affected, and makes them partners in the development process. It is a continuous process throughout the life cycle of the project.